sound is speeding.
Ooh, camera speeding.
There we go. All right, clapping for sync. Now get out of the room, please. Love you very much. Welcome to the first episode of a thing I haven't actually thought of a proper name for yet. This is a little idea I'm trying for the channel where every Monday we're going to be doing a review of all the biggest gaming news that has happened over the last week, as well as taking a quick look at what games you can look forward to playing very, very soon. So, hot on the heels of the release of Resident Evil 3 Remake, there are now rumors circulating that we might be seeing Resident Evil 8 as soon as next year. This rumor has found basis in a popular leaker by the name of Aesthetic Gamer, aka Dust Golem, who's talked about a lot of different horror game stuff in the past and has been right in the past, for instance with Resident Evil 3 Remake. And according to them, Resident Evil 8 that'll be coming out next year is not actually the Resident Evil 8 that was previously rumored quite some time ago, but it's instead another game they were working on at the same time they've decided to shift focus and turn into a number 8 release. According to Aesthetic Gamer, because this game was originally not planned to be a proper mainline Resident Evil title, it will be making use of some mechanics and concept changes that may or may not alienate some series fans. According to them, it will be a first-person view game the same way that Resident Evil 7 was, but instead of having the more traditional story the series has where there's a scientific explanation and rooting for why there are zombies and monsters and so on and so forth, the game will be taking a lot more psychological aspects along with occultism and spiritualism, themes that you'll see in other Japanese horror games like Silent Hill or Fatal Frame. Personally, if this turns out to be real, honestly, I actually really like those themes in a lot of Japanese horror games, and I'd be curious to see the Resident Evil take on it. I'm not necessarily going to be angry that it's in a Resident Evil game, but I'll be very curious to see what the final product actually looks like if this does indeed turn out to be true. Real quick clarification too, there were previous rumors of a Resident Evil 8 that was in the works. That one is still happening, it's just no longer number 8 and will instead be retitled as something else, or may even serve as Resident Evil 9 down the line. Again, if this rumor from Aesthetic Gamer does turn out to be real. Of course, one of the biggest rumors to come out this past week, especially for Switch fans, is the supposed 35th anniversary Mario remakes. Now, the specifics of this rumor have varied a little bit here and there. I've seen some people say that this is going to be a collection, others saying it's individual releases, but the general main focus of the rumor is that supposedly Nintendo's plan for E3 this year was to debut a number of Mario remakes to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the franchise, with a heavy focus on 3D Mario titles with remakes like Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy. These would not necessarily be full-blown remakes, but rather just remastered versions that look better, and of course are playable on the Switch instead of their original systems. In addition to these Mario remake games, there's also supposedly going to be a brand new Paper Mario title in the style of the original Paper Mario games. That franchise is kind of a weird one because it's changed a little bit. There have been entries that were more along the lines of an old-school RPG, later ones got a little more platformy. This one should be like the originals, which, if it's true, is something I am super excited for. While this is still technically a rumor, and like all rumors, I think you should take it with a grain of salt, there has been a lot of backup from multiple sources saying that this is actually a thing that is happening. Again, specifics, I've heard a couple different things here and there, but in general, it sounds like this might actually be a real thing. And if it doesn't come out this year, it could be potentially delayed to next year due to, again, all the things going on with coronavirus. One unsurprising, but kind of a letdown bit of news that came out over this last week is that The Last of Us Part 2 has been delayed indefinitely. Now, that word indefinitely can be a little scary to some people because they take it to mean that the game might be canceled or it's going to get pushed back a way amount. Indefinitely just means they don't know. It could end up getting released just a month later in June, it could be something in the fall, we're not sure. A large reason for this delay is of course due to the current concerns over coronavirus, not just in terms of putting the final touches on the game in development where everyone's working remotely, but really just figuring out the best way to get the game in as many people's hands as possible, since physical delivery of games is getting a little more complex and weirder. Again, while it is getting delayed, we don't know quite exactly for how long. It could be sooner or later. I think really right now, Naughty Dog and Sony are just paying attention to what's happening in the world right now and figuring out when the best time to deliver this game is going to be. One thing I have heard a few people rumor about this is that if it gets delayed all the way till the holiday season, it could turn into a PS5 exclusive, which is weird. I really don't think that's a thing that could actually happen. At most, it could be a cross-generation release, which might have been in the original works anyways, and if not, it'll remain a PS4 exclusive release that'll be supported by PS5 backwards compatibility. Nintendo is once again under lawsuit from the company Vise. Now, if you're not familiar with this whole situation, Vise is a company that makes a line of different controllers for phones that latches onto the sides of them, much in the same way that Joy-Cons go on the side of the Switch. Well, apparently this is a close enough similarity that Vise thinks that Nintendo has violated a number of their patents. Now, they have sued Nintendo previously over this, asking that their games and hardware stop being imported to the US. They lost those cases, but they are now attempting once again with a new set of specific charges that basically follows along the same general sense of logic. It's just a new attempt to try and make the court see things on their side rather than Nintendo's. E3 is in the news again because it looks like it is now official that E3 2020 is cancelled. They have previously talked about how they weren't going to be doing it and might release it some other time in 2020. They might do some kind of digital presentation. That is not happening at all now. They are instead focusing already on E3 2021, talking about it being once again in that same kind of year with mid-June, and they're saying that this time around it's going to be a different show from the past. This is something we've touched on a few times talking about before, where E3 needs to have some kind of change, and it looks like they're trying to force that right now. One thing that might be a bit of a problem for them is not only are they missing out on this year, but it looks like IGN is capitalizing on the situation by doing their own version of a kind of mini E3, which they're calling Summer of Gaming. When it comes to things like big press conferences announcing a whole bunch of games back to back to back, that's still going to be up to each individual company and what they're going to be doing with their own time, but what IGN is doing with the Summer of Gaming thing is all the kind of follow-up coverage that you would see during E3, where after all the press conferences, they'll be doing things like sitting down and talking to different devs, looking at their games, doing hands-on demos, asking questions, all that kind of good stuff. That stuff is still going to be going on under IGN. They've already announced a number of companies they're working with a lot of different major third-party publishers like Square Enix and Bandai Namco. This is just one new problem to add onto the pile of ones that E3 has had over the past year, including major companies leaving like Sony, Jeff Keighley no longer working for the show, and of course, still having a lot of resentful journalists after they leaked a lot of the private info from the event in 2019. This isn't necessarily the final nail in the coffin like a lot of people have been talking about for E3, but it's definitely going to be an interesting sign to take a look at E3 2021 and see how much of a change it really is and whether it's for the better or worse. If you're looking for new games to play this upcoming week, there's a few releases coming out. Obviously, the really big one a lot of people are paying attention to is Final Fantasy VII Remake. It'll be coming out on Friday. It did see an early release in some territories. Some people got physical copies early, but as far as the digital and wide release go, it's happening finally this week on Friday. Alongside with that, Fallout 76 is getting a major expansion tomorrow, and there are a number of ports happening this week, including Tharsis coming to the Switch, Convoy coming to Xbox One, PS4, and Switch altogether, and Below, one of my favorite games that was previously exclusive to Xbox One, will be making its way to PS4 as well. So those are some of the biggest stories to happen in the gaming world this past week, along with a few new titles to keep your eyes open for. Let me know what you guys think of the new format down below in the comments, and I will see you guys later.